These are very strange times we live, indeed. I mean, there are times where politics can be in such a situation where alliances are achieved, unlikely alliances. What am I talking about? I'm talking about Ammon Bundy. Um, if you don't know who he is, um, back in the 1990s, all the way till about 2014, from time to time, there was a standoff between cattle ranchers out in the West versus the U.S. federal government over grazing, over the issue of grazing fees on federal lands. Um, with the situation that's taking place in this country and everything, um, Ammon Bundy doesn't know me from Jack. We never met, but I feel like in spite of being a leftist, he probably hate everything I stand for politically. But I feel like, in a way, I might owe him an apology for misjudging him. And all you lefties in the audience that knows who I'm talking about, please, please, before you get up in arms, just hear me out. Hear me out. And this is for just put a background information on for people who are not familiar with Cliven and Ammon Bundy and what's happened. I remember I was in my 20s when this whole issue about grazing on federal lands and the fees that were invoked upon, and back then I do think it was political, partisan, just a chance to jab at Bill Clinton. And back then I was just like, oh gosh, they're just a bunch of rednecks just trying to make trouble for because there is all sour graces. There's not a Republican in the White House. I used to think along those lines, and and everything. Um, so I mean, I don't know what officially the political party affiliations of Cliven and Ammon Bundy. They may be Republican, they may be Libertarian, they may be U.S. Taxpayers Party then, which is now the Constitution Party. They may be sovereign citizens. They may, what have you. I don't know. I don't know. I don't know them personally. I just draw conclusions, and maybe I overreacted in doing so. But I just thought, well, I know about the federal lands. These were the grazing fees, I believe, were enacted in 1984 by the Reagan administration. I believe that's it. If I'm wrong, please somebody tell me, and I will stand corrected. But for what I understand, the grazing fees were enacted in 1984 by the Reagan administration. Um, and and so what I think happened is that this was an opportunity to go and try to make Bill Clinton look bad, which in hindsight I used to frown on the right wing irrational hatred of Bill Clinton back then. Um, my politics hasn't changed. I'm still far left by American standards, but maybe they were right all along. Because Bill Clinton just managed to piss me off a few days ago over the John Lewis funeral. You know, um, but anyway, I will talk about that perhaps later on in another video commentary. And I'm meandering all over again. But let me get back to what I was saying. So anyway, there was a standoff that would take place from time to time from the early 1990s till about 2014 and sometimes in between. All was quiet during the George W. Bush years. And then the standoff started again during the Obama years. And for the same reasons they went after Bill Clinton, they went after Obama. And this was when the Tea Party movement was all right. And you saw militias all over the place and the patriot movements and sovereign citizens movement and that sort of thing. And sometimes what I would call libertarians, darker side or inclinations and impulses, kind of meandering through the movement. So anyway, in 2014, these cattle ranchers occupied a federal building out in the Northwest, I believe in Oregon, and it took place for quite a while. And they were, and I don't remember exactly how long it took, but it was quite a while, and they were eventually rounded up and everything. And I was thinking at that time, because we got a cultural or civil war politically going on in the United States between the red states and blue states, between the left and the right, and all that's going on and everything. So my thoughts on Almond Bunny was fairly negative. It was fairly negative when, especially when finding out that, the late Harold Covington, a white nationalist, championing the cause of Cliven and Cliven and Almond Bundy. And excuse me, Cliven Bundy, the father, once claimed that African Americans were better off under Jim Crow. And comments like that. That was just, just kind of like, wow, is this is where it's going these days? And so I just assumed they were probably closet white nationalists, making assumptions. Jump forward to several years later. Um, the police brutality against George Floyd and the Black Lives Matter movement and Antifa and civil unrest running among this country for a while. We still have some civil unrest, but it's a little bit calmer right now than it was initially. Um, and of course, I'm already angry that the Trump administration is threatening to enact the Insurrection Act, which I think that the purpose of doing so is to not just go after looters or the small, minute of violent protesters, a very small percentage of them. They're trying to start revolution. Very tiny, tiny little group of some kind of radical misfits or what have you. Um, you know, Black Lives Matter is not a terrorist group. They they exist for a reason, to address the issue of police brutality, which has been ignored for many, many years or disregarded in the name of getting tough on crime. And once again, need I remind people that just because Antifa can be a little unpleasant at times does not mean that they're a terrorist organization. I need to remind everybody, guess how many people Antifa murdered? Zero. 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 So, yeah, Antifa and Black Lives Matter are mobilizing protests and trying to wake up people's conscience about the police brutality and racism that is very much in existence in our criminal justice system. And I don't care what anybody can sit there and try to contradict me if you want, but we have systemic, ugly racism within our criminal justice system. And yeah, and the thing about it is, it needs to be addressed. I mean, you got people like, I never thought I would have kind words for Senator Mitt Romney of Utah, but Mitt Romney of Utah is in solidarity now with Black Lives Matter. I mean, so if so you got your kind of even your mainstream, as much as mainstream can be defined for individual Republicans in this day and age. You got one with Mitt Romney supporting Black Lives Matter, and I say, receive all the allies you can for this movement, and the aim, which is to get rid of the police brutality that is rampant in our law enforcement system. Well, yesterday I was watching Secular Talk, Kyle Kulinski show, Secular Talk Radio. Um, and I know some people will be like, "Oh, there he goes talking about Kyle Kulinski again." Yeah, he is one of my favorites. I mean, I don't know any other American left wing commentator that can articulate social democracy so well. And he's, top of his game. So I always recommend the Kyle Kulinski show. Anyway, let me go on. I was watching the segment about Ammon Bundy, and he was showing the testimony, video where on, I don't know what platform. It looks like it might have been a Facebook live stream. I'm not sure. Watching the video, I'll put the link in the bottom of the Kyle Kulinski show, so you can get a chance to look over that if you like. But anyway, Ammon Bundy pretty much made an eloquent case for why he's in solidarity with Black Lives Matter and Antifa, and the issue of police brutality, and the idea of the federal government taking inappropriate actions against political dissent and against the First Amendment. And he would know because he was a recipient of it. The empathy factor worked in, and he endured that, and it bothered him to see Black Lives Matter and Antifa um, basically being attacked by our federal government. And if Ammon Bundy can understand that, there is no reason why mainstream Democrats, and especially anybody who's in the Republican Party that could be defined as mainstream, especially if you're in an elected office, to sit there and to declare Black Lives Matter and Antifa a terrorist organization. If Ammon Bundy doesn't think so, I would say that's probably good enough reason not to go harassing Black Lives Matter and harassing Antifa. Now, I do support Black Lives Matter, and I may not agree with every finite point of Black Lives Matter or Antifa, but I support their aims, their broad goals to end police brutality and to stop racial violence wherever it rears its ugly head. No dispute about that. And as a civil libertarian, I do stand with Black Lives Matter and Antifa in that regard. And it sounds like same thing with Ammon Bundy, and he's speaking from his small government libertarian style conservatism. And God bless him. I mean, if he wants to help, and I hope that people on the left will embrace him because, you know, um, I think that you can have someone like Ammon Bundy realize the injustice that African Americans are facing. That's going to do a lot to solve the racial breakdown and race relations that are going, in a negative direction by demagogic politicians who likes to use dog whistles about good people on both sides in Charlottesville, quote unquote good people on both sides. One side was kind of good, other side wasn't, but they all had free speech rights. If that, I'll go along with the free speech rights as long as nobody invoked violence against each other. But you know, the people in Charlottesville were really wanting a fight. They were glad to see provocative action because they wanted to see a fight because they had a narrative. At best, they or as most benign, they had a narrative to say, "Well, you see, we're being picked on. We're being picked on." And then in the worst case scenario, you got some asses in there out there that wants to jumpstart the Turner Diaries or something like that. But you know, so and I'm referring to Donald Trump when I said he claims there were good people on both sides. Dog whistles, and those dog whistles are a little worse than the usual dog whistles that come from the modern GOP campaign. Um, it's sad to say, but it's not even your Lee Atwater's Republican Party anymore. And if you don't know who Lee Atwater was, he was the campaign guy that worked in the George Bush senior campaign and that did those racially coded negative ads against Governor Michael Dukakis. Okay, so anyway, getting back to Ammon Bundy, and I'm I work graveyard, so I'm a little off right now. But getting back to Ammon Bundy, so he's talking about his small government conservatism, and he offers his support for Black Lives Matter and Antifa, as I said, and he supports defunding the police, which I think has been taken out of context by the right wing. When I say right wing in this context, the movement conservatism right wing of the Republican Party, the establishment, the talk radio, Fox News, the ugly right wing side of Goldman Sachs corporatism, the neoconservative warmongers, Heritage Foundation, Rush Limbaugh, Ted Cruz. You get the idea. These folks want to act like defunding the police means, oh no, you're going to get rid of the police department, when all it means is alternative policing and not only finding an alternative to policing, but to stop the Pentagon from giving military hardware to local law enforcement. I mean, I'm all for the bulletproof vest. I'm all for, because even though we do have a criminal justice problem, law enforcement's problems with police brutality and everything in regard to minorities and what have you. Um, I don't want to punish every police officer and leave them defenseless. Yeah, let them have bulletproof vests. Kind of stuff. Don't give them the kind of equipment where they look like they're about ready to fight in Iraq or Afghanistan. That's basically what I'm saying, and that's basically what Ammon Bundy, and that's what pretty much what most Black Lives Matters people think. So anyway, the point I'm trying to make is sometimes politics is so crazy that unlikely alliances can take place. And as I said, I think that the left would be foolish to to look at Ammon Bundy and go, "Oh, get away from me! Get away from me!" And as I said earlier, I think Ammon Bundy would look at my politics and be repulsed by what I believe in, roughly speaking. I think he'll look at me and think I was a piece of turd for being a Bernie bro. But that's okay. That's fine. He can think whatever the hell he wants of me. I don't think he cares one way or the other. He doesn't know who I am. He probably won't know who ever I am. But the thing about it is that we need to form alliances where alliances are possible to bring justice. And so, as I say, Ammon Bundy is coming from a libertarian and perhaps even a paleoconservative point of view, but he's coming into the correct conclusion that we have racism in law enforcement, and we have a racism problem throughout society. And he sees Black Lives Matter and Antifa as legitimate, and he sees Donald Trump trying to use the Insurrection Act you basically to use the U.S. military to invade inside your own damn country as problematic. And so that's where it's at. And um, that's where it's at. So anyway, um, I am going to I'm going to leave y'all on this note. One person is wanting to ask me a question on live chat, and he's asking me, "What do you think of the movement to draft Jesse Ventura?" And all I got to say is that I don't think that Jesse Ventura is going to run. I think that the Green Party is going to be having Howie Hawkins as the standard bearer. And Howie Hawkins is a good man. Um, you know, I don't know him personally, but I know people that know him. Um, we we know people around the same circles, um, and so, so that's my take on this whole Jesse Ventura movement, which I respect Jesse Ventura as well. But anyhow, allies where we can find it, and let's hope we can solve this police brutality problem in this country. I ranted long enough, so I'm gonna go with my usual conclusion. If you like what you heard today, press like. You can comment. If you think what I said was a load of poo, you can just press dislike and tell me why I'm wrong. And I'm trying to get up to 1,000 subscribers by the end of the year, so I would appreciate it if you would subscribe. And I urge each and every one of you. You got a platform. By all means, express yourselves. The First Amendment's there for a reason, and I am a First Amendment absolutist. So I want you to do just that. And like, dislike, comment, subscribe, share, tell everybody about this channel. Form your own channel. And until next time, peace. And Bernie Sanders for president 2024. And no, I'm not kidding.